I stopped the last video because I realized that I was sitting outside of my friend's house, but I didn't realize that they had neighbors like directly next to the house. I didn't realize until I heard them talking, and then I was like, okay, I don't want to be sitting just like directly out here while they're right next door, like right on the other side of the door. So I decided to walk over here to McDonald's, where I've just been taking a bit of a respite. Not that I guess it's totally necessary. I mean, okay, so I didn't walk yesterday. I was at my friend's house the entire day yesterday, but the day before that, I walked about 15 miles. I've only walked like, I don't know, maybe a mile and a half today. But I'll tell you, that bag kicks my ass. Walking that 15 miles, that's a lot. Even just the mile and a half, it was already a lot. So, like, I don't know. I'm going to have to figure out. The bag is a hard one because I don't necessarily need. I mean, I try to pack as light as possible, and the shit is still like 40 pounds. And that's a lot. Dragging an extra 60 pounds. Well, I need my art. I need to be able to make my art. Which I'm mostly just writing, drawing a little bit, but and that's not really where the weight is coming from. I think, I have like a big pack of wet wipes for, cleaning myself purposes. But that in of itself weighs like fucking 5 pounds. And then I have like a shampoo and a conditioner and a body wash. So those are all where most of that weight is coming from, I suppose. And that damn water bottle, which is a lot, but it's what it is. I get a little bit stronger every day. So I know that I was kind of in the middle of elaborating on a concept, and after I stopped the video, I became somewhat frustrated as I was walking here to McDonald's because I'm just like, I would love to be able to make these enjoyable to watch. That's like, kind of the whole point. I want to be able to I don't want people to have to sit there and listen to my dumbass saying a bunch of just saying shit, and so just so that they can find the bits of value. Like, I would like to be able to start writing down my concepts a little bit better and then expressing them from there. But that might end up making things take a little bit longer in that way too. I'm just trying to figure out what's best to go about this. Because I really want to make sure that I'm getting everything out there. A big part of what, so like I said, in the last video, I've been doing this essentially, like trying to get out on the road like this so that I can live off of my own self and try to teach other people about self-sustainability, essentially, for the last, 15 years. I've been wanting to do this, and what really drove me ending up going this route right now in this time through everything is just kind of where I ended up was a big part of it, because I was just like, well, this obviously isn't the place for me, and so that was a constant point of reminding that I needed to get on top of who I am and what I'm actually trying to do with my life. But there's also been, because of that, I was living with my family, and I'd been estranged from them aside from a short time last year when my dog got hit by a train and I needed somewhere for them to stay. And I started trying to kind of facilitate those relationships again, and then even then was confronted with the reasons I don't want to do that. And when I left the last time, I was like, okay, I'm not ever going to come back. But I let myself get to a point of feeling defeated this year. There's just been a lot on my plate, which is normal. I'd gotten kind of exhausted, though. I wasn't, I was not clear in my mind at all. I was very clouded in my perception. I wasn't able to like come to like so like a clear thought in any way about anything. I was really frustrated. This has been this entire year. So um even prior to like a week before the end of the last year. Um so I couldn't like give myself the space and time to properly assess where I was, what I was doing, why, and what to do from there, which is my process. And the fact that I couldn't reach that was like really triggering for me because it felt like my actual like foundation was being kept from me somehow. My sense of stability that I've been working so hard to build was just like nowhere to be found for some reason. It was very bizarre. I felt trapped in a very weird dimension. Um, it just felt like some fuck shit, to be honest. Uh, and I ended up finding myself feeling defeated, which I've been low. I Between 2016 and 2018, I attempted suicide 4 different times. So there's been times that I've been quite low. Um, and yet, even in those times, the act of trying to kill myself was kind of like still me fighting a lot of these different, like, just negativities that I couldn't figure out how to process properly. Um, but I never fully felt like fully defeated. Like that was like me still fighting against those things. It wasn't always like me necessarily giving up. Even when I wanted to get up, I still wasn't. This was something different. I felt like I was like I wanted to give up, but I kept saying that, and I felt defeated, and I didn't know what else to do anymore because I really like had this like really strong draw to like just need somebody to help me. Like I just wanted to settle for help. Like somebody just do it for me. Like I'm so exhausted. Like I can't keep up with this. Can somebody please just like come in and like save me from myself? You know, it's bullshit. I don't. I've fought very hard for my entire adult life to rid myself of that concept that I am ever in need of anything outside of myself. Because I truly believe that. I truly believe that if we really, truly knew ourselves, we would not require a thing outside of ourselves. Um, Everything outside of ourselves is for enjoyment alone. It's for the experience, which, you know, positive and negative is all part of the experience. It's what we make of it. And our enjoyment is what we allow ourselves to be willing to enjoy. And, you know, I just, been struggling with these things, always been struggling with these things, but I felt genuinely defeated to the point where I ended up back at my family's house. And even that, like, what I've realized now is that, like, the issue was that there was still some aspect of myself up until this point that identified myself by my family, by my past, by my upbringing, by these people who had defined me forever. There was still a sense of when I didn't feel confident in the person that I've established and that I've come to know as myself, um, I just fell back into who I used to be in the sense of, and I didn't in most behaviors, to be honest. I've been pretty chaste, but I still fell into the mindset that there was some fulfillment there somehow. At the same time, like I felt so defeated that I also just wasn't thinking. It was just like literally anybody that'll help me right now because I can't do shit for myself. And I was being offered a place to stay without having to pay up front and where I could, you know, effectively start, you know, working, or effectually, I should say, start, you know, working and being able to get myself back on my feet, which is essentially all I'm doing because I'm always just living paycheck to paycheck, moving around all the time. But I had been there and I felt stuck just like I did at the place earlier this year. And I'd been stuck in this mindset. And I'm aware that, like, I'm always struggling with, like, the person that I lived with earlier this year and then with my family specifically. Like, it's very hard for me to not feel like I'm being negatively influenced by their direct behavior. But I try very hard not to actively blame them, not to let them have responsibility for my active experience, because that's just giving them control over my life, which is what the opposite of what I'm trying to do, right? I'd rather be unhappy on my own than blame somebody else for my unhappiness. I would rather be happy on my own than have to blame or thank somebody else for that too. Um, Ultimately, I'm learning how to release so much of the pride and ego that has kept me from being able to accept and receive proper health, and like, to be able to fund like actual healthy beneficial relationships. But um, my relationship with my family has always been a point of frustration and pain and confusion and discomfort, and has also, for me personally, like really felt like a very purposeful, like stumbling block, essentially, it's like a, as if the family structure itself is something in my life that was set up for me to kind of, it's set up in opposition against me, so that it's something that I have to, it's like a challenge that I have to work through in order to come to know myself. um, there's plenty of things in my life that, in my acceptance of them, I found connection with them, and I found that they help add to my experience in ways that leave me feeling positive. My family doesn't give me that same, uh, you know, that's not the connection that I have with my family. When I've come to accept as things are, I've been met with an equal responsibility to myself to set boundaries. Um, and I don't like that being the case. I don't like when I have to like look at things as I like to be able to just like be happy all the time and act like everything's fine and like forgive any mistake because I just like things to be happy and good. That's my preference. But I also am a realist. I just want to be honest. I want to be truthful. I don't think that catering to lies is going to make anything better. I think that um, there's a fine line between actively enjoying your experience and being thankful for things and being able to be happy even when things are shitty, and being dismissive or deflective and kind of making excuses or kind of using certain things as a distraction, um, just for that momentary sense of happiness at the sacrifice of genuine sustainability, which that's really the essence of all things for me, is sustainability. Um, as far as I'm, as far as I can tell, as far as I'm concerned, as far as my equations have added up, um, negativity serves a purpose, but its purpose is essentially finality in a way. So like it's great as a tool, but it shouldn't be it's never going to be the fundamental factor for sustainability or existence, life. The whole foundation of those things is sustainability. That's the whole point. Like, so your if your actions to support your survival or your existence, whatever that means to you, are actually depleting you of anything, then it's not sustainable. And that's what negativity does. There are times that negativity is so essential because there's too much of something and there's stuff that needs to be done away with. There's cutting ties and setting proper boundaries and, you know, amputations. All of those types of things can be quite necessary when things have either gotten awry, or in order to keep things in a sustainable, proper state. Like I am a hedonist. I worship pleasure. I believe that that's the entire point of our experience, is to be able to experience it and to live our lives to the fullest. I just think that self awareness is key, for the fact that so much of us tend to be prone to self destructive behaviors and socially deprecating behaviors that are momentarily satisfying, but that in the end are not sustainable. And they're not sustainable because they're harming other people, because they're harming us, because they're harming the stable dynamics that are required in order to create unification amongst all of the different aspects of our society. And generally speaking, the general public doesn't hold themselves personally responsible for those things, and that to me is an issue. Um, I do believe it should be something that's kind of like inherent in our society, that if you are a person, you're an individual, and if you're an individual, you are responsible for yourself. um, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of sovereignty, is self accountability. Um, and without it, we have the world that we have today. And so, like, I struggle with these things when it comes to my own personal life, obviously, because like I can be very idealistic and ambitious in my perception of things, and I can be as forgiving or as like even alchemizing as I want to be in my perspective. But those are still very personal things, and my active, like the active projections that I manifest in my life, like the actual activity of my life, not the intent, but what I'm actually doing, like those are the things that are what's most important. Obviously, I can talk all day, but like if I'm not actually showing those things in my life, if I'm not actually living those things, then like I obviously don't believe it, right? So then it just becomes bullshit. It's great if somebody else can find truth in it and make good of it. That's their power, and that's good on them, and that's godlike of them to be able to do that out of bullshit. Um, that's what power truly is that if somebody gives you bullshit, you can say, perfect, this is the manure I needed for my garden, just what I needed to plant some flowers. People can give you whatever the fuck they want. It's up to you to receive it how you choose to, and you can take anything and make it a power. um, And so, right, there's all these different fine lines, because, like, in my own personal life, I do struggle with my personal relationship with my family, and I do struggle with personal relationships a lot, oftentimes in romantic relationships. Um, and it's in those personal relationships that it becomes, even in my friendships. Generally speaking, I'm pretty good at making friends and keeping friends, and I don't have a problem with people, and people don't really have a problem with me. Even people that don't actually really like me or agree with me about most things still enjoy me, and I enjoy them, and it's all kosher. But I do have a pretty strong tendency to set pretty strict boundaries in my life against certain experiences and certain people, and I don't. I care more about me being in alignment with whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing, whether it truly makes sense to me or not, like than catering to my understanding of things, and like which includes the dimension of other people also being able to understand. That's actually even beyond it. Like, I don't need other people to understand what I'm doing for me to be confident in myself. But I don't even need to be sure of the like end results in order to be confident in my awareness of things, and my it's more just an awareness of things, because it's kind of like an acceptance. I can in that acceptance be able to see into the future potentials and possibilities that are far more likely than if I weren't to have that awareness and that acceptance. Anytime that you force your projections and your manifestations, unless you're actively within your power enough that you're actively manifesting those projections, you're just setting yourself up to be delusional. And, I have my tendencies towards being those ways. So, these are things I'm always trying to like keep myself in check about, but I'm also, I don't know, I'm just very adamant about being able to like convey these things in a way that potentially like I'm I would like to be able to convey these things to other people, so that it's one thing for me to go out and be how I am, and then to find people that resonate with that already. That's wonderful. And that does me good. Like it helps me to feel supported and feel like there's people that share in my beliefs and that really see things the way that I see things. And it helps me like feel grounded and come back to myself in a really, solid way. But at the same time, like, I don't require those things. And I think that our tendency to require those things tends to lead us astray. And I think it's very easy for people to judge, not just me, but like anyone based on perception, when that's such a personal thing. Your perception can be that something is just absolutely ludicrous, but to me, it's like it's more important to just know in my heart something than it is to even be able to actively explain it. I obviously care very much to be able to explain things, kind of my thing. But even beyond that, like that's not where I stop. Like I don't need to explain something if I just am moved by it. And I think most people maybe just don't know how to trust that. They don't trust their hearts, and they can't trust their hearts even because they're so misled, really, is how I view it. I mean, I don't want to say that, because that kind of has this denotion of, me having like as if I know better or know more, or I'm like doing something better, or like in more alignment somehow. Because I don't necessarily think that's the case either. I do think that for those that resonate with me, my words have power. But for those who it doesn't, or for those who are triggered by the things that I say, I mean, well, then it still holds power. But I do speak my gospel. I speak what I believe to be the truth. I try to live out as lovingly as possible what I believe to be the truth. And I am constantly confronted with how little I actually know about my own self or belief system or the world around me. That's why it's a constant process. It isn't just like one day I can wake up and be like, okay, here's everything. Here's how it's all supposed to be. It is a constant process. It's for me, and I fuck up nonstop. I'm never doing anything perfect, and I'm never doing it, everything in a way where like everybody could look at it and be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And now I can be a great person based on this information I received from you. Like it doesn't work like that at all. It is a constant process, and there's always going to be a lot of people that can look and be like, okay, well, I think that's bullshit. And that's fine. I prefer if people can like explain those things to me, or also like let me know their perspective, or like give me that opposition, because I want to be in proper alignment, and I don't want to be self-deceived. And it's easy to get in the habit of like, just accepting certain things to the point where you're not keeping yourself like accountable to yourself, and suddenly now you've bought into some misconception, and you haven't just bought into it, you're using it every day, you're facilitating relationships based off of it. It can so innocently and so easily become detrimental when we are not keeping ourselves in account to our own belief systems. And I mean to like the nth degree. I grew up Christian, so I grew up with people that are pretty adamant to talk about what their belief system is, and it seems to be quite well defined. However, it's more often than not that those things aren't perfectly reflected in their lifestyles. Again, that's normal. I don't expect anybody to actually be able to perfectly example their highest ideals, even though I think that that's generally what we should be trying to do. I think also we should just be generally trying to accept everything with as much gratitude as possible, under the awareness that those things aren't truly possible in that way. I just think that I don't have it all figured out. Not everything I believe is right. It's right for me. it could be the exact opposite for someone else, and that's what's going to help them to be the best that they could possibly be. That's not up for me to decide. That's up for the individual. The individual needs to know themselves. Um, Family structures like mine, and why I'm constantly trying to break out of my family structure, or why I've always tried to get away from the churches that I've been a part of, or why I feel like the society that I've grown up in or the communities that I've grown up in are essentially detrimental to society, or in dire need of some redirection, or perhaps even like to be done away with entirely because they are completely founded on and supported by uh, deceptive belief systems. Um, I see that as being evident in not just my sheltered experience, but also in the grander experience. It's so weird how the world works, but like, okay, I grew up Christian and sheltered, but I've met people who never really learned any Christian theology. They actually were raised by atheists who were uh, very theologically atheist, and so they grew up with the almost the exact opposite that I grew up with, right? Only there's something about the core energy transference of that structure that suppressed their sense of self essentially the same way that Christianity did mine. So I don't think that it's just Christianity. That tends to be something I pick apart a lot and pick on a lot because of my personal experiences with it. I can't speak on Islam. I can't speak on Hinduism. I can't speak on I can speak on certain occult things. I can speak on certain types of, certain Satanistic stuff because of people that I've interacted with and stuff like that. And I can speak on Christianity. That's all within the realm of that same type of thing, though, and like, I try very hard not to speak on things I don't have awareness of, education of, or experience with. I try to be as humble as possible about things. I do like to educate myself. I do love to learn. I do love to meet people, and I love learning. I love having very deep conversations and learning all types of things. You can find me anywhere at any time talking to straight strangers about incredibly deep subjects. I love it. So I've learned a lot, but I don't claim to know anything. I think my ego will have me communicate in times where I talk as if I know a thing. But if I were ever, and any time I am, confronted with potential hypocrisy, or like questioned, like, well, what does that really mean? Or where is that coming from? Or how can you prove that? Those sort of things. I love that. And I beg for those things. I want those things. That's everything to me, because as much I'm very passionate, just how I am. I like to be able to express these things. It's just in me to be able to put that stuff out. But I don't want to be putting out bullshit, and like I have so much of my life was spent with like people being very kind to not hold it against me that I was significantly pretentious. Because they were more aware than I was about it, and they recognized that I didn't recognize that about myself. And so many people my entire life have been just so entirely gracious and like even supportive of me being passionate, while none of them actually agreed with anything that I said, and like just let me come to my understanding myself. Like, it's funny now because like I've kind of come out of a lot of like really delusional mindsets that I had in the past, and talking to people that knew me in the past and that know me now, like they'll laugh about it because they're like, yeah, that's true. That is how you are. That is how you've been. And like, they'll hear me now and they're like, no, I think that you're getting it. We're happy to see it. But like, what's so precious is that like prior to these experiences, I was so scared of people recognizing that I wasn't perfect, and so like it was very hard for me to swallow that pill to begin with. But when I see it now and like the way that people are, and I'm like, wow, people actually have been so gracious this time, and like it just says a lot about like, I guess, my value to me, where I never really felt like I was valuable unless I was offering something. Unless I was, I had to have a solid education and know what I was talking about, or everything I say is worth nothing. I had to, be willing to do anything sexually, or the sex I have to offer is invaluable. I had to, be physically as perfect as I could, even if it was at my own detriment, just to appeal to a standard, because if I didn't do that, I wasn't ideal. And, the list goes on. It was something that I always struggled with and I held against myself forever. And that incapacity to love myself properly was seething, honestly. Like, it was like something that, like, if you'd let me get to the point of talking about it, you would hear so much bitter hatred towards myself in the way that I viewed myself. Yet at the same time, my entire premise of everything was just love other people, be loved, try to give people love and stuff like that. It's not that that has changed, but that I've learned how to reassess things in a way where being able to give myself what I've deserved, I'm now able to actually give things the right way. At least better, at least far better. The way that I was actually just telling my friends, the way that I look at it is that, like, I I used to think that, like, I had these issues and they were whatever, but once I, sorted certain things out, then I'd be like perfect, because, like, Jesus had saved me from all my sin. And so I looked at, like, oh, I'm already saved. And then all of the ways that I was, like, building onto that were making me more perfect. But what I see now is that I'm still incredibly fucked up in a lot of ways, as we all are. But I was utterly delusional. I was incapable of coming to my own senses in basically any regard, unless I was put in a survival situation. Still struggle with that. But, well, I suppose at times I should give myself far more credit. But I, was so, what was I just saying? I was so deluded in the past, and now, like, I see myself as still slightly less than average. I'm still not where people should be in their lives. Like, it's not like I don't want people to look at me as the example right now of, like, yep, that's where I want to be at 33 sort of deal. You know what I mean? But by any stretch of the imagination, really. But at the same time, the work that I've done has allowed me to, at 33 now, I'm at, like, the bottom, to be able to actually live a normal life, to be able to do the things, to build from the bottom up and to experience an actual, like, my reality, a normal reality where there's the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, the goods, the bads, but it all is mine. Um, I think, obviously this is coming from me having been raised so sheltered and with the Christianity and stuff. And I know that, like, friends that I have that came out of religious upbringings also resonate this way with me, or, like, share the same sort of feeling of almost having to, like, fight to find themselves, to come out of those systems of brainwashing. But in my experience, it's just that those that have grown up in religious sects in that way have found it easier to define their brainwashing, because there was a label put to it that they were supposed to identify themselves by, where so many people in the world are still given to the same level of brainwashing, or at least the same level of separation of self, but I have a harder time recognizing it because it isn't as definable, especially because, like, in society there isn't, like, a specific standard for existence. um, it works quite like I tend to, or, like, I don't have preferences for, you know like, I want things to be this way and I want things to be this way. I more just have preference of, I just don't want things to be this way and I don't want things to be this way, which is fine. But how I brought it up yesterday, like, that's it's fine, but it's only part of the balance. You have to be able to figure out the other way, because what that has done has caused me to not really be able to define higher standards and better living and more positive things, while it's allowed me to almost hyper fixate on, the negativities. And our perception is just everything. I mean, what I've been like thinking about the most today is I've been just trying to kind of consider how I want to go about this, how I want to get these videos out, like what I really want to talk about, what I'm trying to convey, all of these things. I mean, so much of it is just like, it's just that, whatever it is that keeps us from ourselves. There's so many things for me. My family has always been a huge part of that. They just had such a significant influence on me, and then they never had an equal support for who I truly am. And so I was always at conflict, and I've always been at conflict with them. And that's just like the basics. That's not even with any of the actual drama or anything. I just don't think that my experiences, as unique as they might be, like I would like to share my personal experiences. I want to be able to talk about these things. A big point of like having to get out to be able to talk about this stuff is because there's a lot of details in my life that I've kept hidden because I was trying to protect the people that were involved. But I'm at a point now where like I don't need to protect people that way. The truth will protect those that need to be protected, and the truth will also bring justice to those that deserve justice, and which means that it will also bring karma to those that have karma coming. It'll bring the dharma, it'll bring the karma. It's doing both, the truth. So that's what I want to get to, is the truth. And I wanted to get out of the situation that I was in before I could start communicating a lot of these things, because so much of my truth revolves around, things that I dealt with in childhood that were never properly addressed. As I've tried to address them, I've been trying to properly address them. They just haven't. I don't want to call people out. I'm not trying to make people look bad. I just want to be truthful and honest about my experience. The reason I'm kind of tiptoeing around it is because I want to make sure that I'm not just calling people out, that I'm not just getting into the victim mentality of, oh, well, I was through this and I was through this and that's why I am the way I am and blah, blah, blah. I want this to be more practical. Like, the reason that I thought this was because of this, and this is where I'm at now, and this is where I want to go from there. I don't want it to get caught up into the personal emotions of things. That's for me to deal with. That's not for anyone else. And when I need to get this stuff out so that I can move on. That's really the biggest part about it, more than anything. It's not even to make a thing about it, but I do also believe that like all of my experiences, all that I have to share can benefit people who can resonate with it. And because of the experiences that I've had, I don't want people to have to go through that same shit if they don't have to. If there's a way that I can convey any sense of confidence to work through those things, any sense of security to be able to leave those things behind, any way that I can convey to people that they are their power, that they are the source of their own creation, that they are the manifester for all of their reality, that they're the receiver of all of their reality, and that they're the ones that are in control, and that if they just stay true to themselves, they'll be able to live the lives that they're meant to live and find whatever that alignment looks like, and the entire world will look so much better for it. That's really what I want to see. But I just don't want to do things in a way where I'm like forcing or coercing or being manipulative with my emotions just because I feel victimized. I do want to be very open about things as well. And I do want to kind of, a big part of this for me wasn't just explaining the experience as I'm experiencing it. And it isn't just about like the socio-political aspects of what I'm doing, but the very personal quest that I'm on to come to my own truth by working through those things. And so many of my experiences I haven't been able to openly express and talk about because of the nature of them and because of the relationships I've still kept in contact with. So that's what I'm doing now, is removing the blockages that have kept me from being able just to be honest. Like, I'm sorry, but if you're a relationship that is standing in between me just being able to be honest, if I'm too scared to be honest with you because I'm scared of like how you're going to respond, or I can't confront you for some reason with the honesty and stuff, like I'm trying to be as honest as possible right now. So if there's anything standing in between me and that, I'm just releasing it. It's not for me. It's not in my control. I'm walking away from it. And I'm letting the universe handle everything. everything. I'm going to handle myself. I used to beg the universe to control me and to give me good things and to do everything for me, while I just felt victimized constantly because I was just trying so hard to love everybody, but I wasn't willing to love myself, and I didn't know how to receive good things from the universe. And at the point now where, like, I know that I've done my work. I know that I've planted my seeds, and I know that if I just stay true to myself and just keep doing what I'm supposed to be doing and keep trusting my intuition when I'm led by these different things, even if it doesn't make sense, especially if it doesn't make sense to other people, and especially if those people are, because most people nowadays just don't know themselves and they'll admit that. So why am I going to try to cater to those people? And especially if those people, like, yeah, aren't happy in their own lives. Those just aren't the things I'm trying to support with mine. So hopefully, yeah, I mean, what I want to start doing too on top of this is also starting to kind of tell my life story and the experiences that I've went through, and trying to kind of elaborate on those things too, in a sense of healing and in a way to kind of just, hopefully work through all of this. So the next video I make might end up being pretty heavy. And as I post these, I will try to make a point to kind of in the descriptions kind of give, a little bit of what to expect, just so that people don't have to sit here and go through all of this, me talking forever just to get to main talking points. But yeah, so hopefully by the next several videos, things will be far more structured. But I've been wanting to keep up with what I'm doing, and I hadn't really made videos aside from the one I just made before I walked here. I didn't make any videos yesterday, so I just wanted to make sure that I was keeping everybody updated, and hopefully it'll become far more seamless as I continue on forward.